Good morning and welcome to the Football Die Hard Sunday DFS show. It's week 12 of the NFL season, and what an insane week it is. I'm here with Jason Brady, the popular and talented, and myself, Emil Kadlec, the old man of fantasy. How are you doing today, Jason Brady?
I'm doing pretty good. Ready for this crazy slate. I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of injuries, a lot of other things. So really looking forward to it. I think there's going to be some big advantages because there's some plays you really got to dig deep, and there's lots of value on this slate as well. So it should be fun. Hopefully, make some money on this Sunday.
Yeah, you're just. I've got one of those double things going on here. So let me try and turn that off. Yeah, I have no idea why I'm getting a double thing, but it's very annoying. So let me do a couple quick things here. Some injuries that have been occurring and situations that have been occurring other than what's happened previously in this crazy week. But Kalen Ballage right now is not expected to play this week, which leaves you with Eckler, Pope, and Kelly, three-headed monster. Rivers had that foot problem. He's supposed to be ready to go also. Carson Wentz is a quirky situation because Jalen Hurts is supposed to get some extra plays this Sunday, which could affect Wentz, especially if Jalen actually does well. Maybe they give him a few more plays. So a tough situation there. The Denver quarterbacks, as you know, they're all out, and they brought a guy in off the practice squad, Kendall Hinton, who's a receiver, and he played quarterback in Wake Forest the last 3 years. So he may actually be the Denver quarterback. Crazy stuff. Jerry Jeudy's supposed to be playing today, expected to be playing. Julio Jones for Atlanta is not expected to play. We don't have that. We'll have that officially before the games. It's an early game, so we'll know. And Todd Gurley's out. So Brian Hill may be an attractive player, as we'll talk later. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are back. So they're expected to play. Coleman's out. That's an afternoon game. Debo Samuel is back. Brandon Ayuk is a COVID situation, so he's not supposed to play that I'm understanding. So that Richie James and Bourne could get some playing time. Has a chance there for San Francisco. Mark Andrews is out for the Tuesday game, and that's affected DFS a little bit. Jonathan Taylor is out, so you've got a Wilkins, Naheem Hines, two-headed monster there for Indianapolis, which may actually be a positive situation for one of those two guys. So anyway, those are the top things. So Brady, you want to start with quarterbacks?
Yeah, lots of injuries there, so really important stuff. Starting with the quarterbacks, and I think you can pretty much, if you want to, you can pay up for quarterback this week because of all the injuries you just mentioned. That's going to open up a lot of value, so I have no problem going up and getting quarterbacks here up top. Up top, of course, you got Kyler Murray, but I really like Patrick Mahomes this week against Tampa Bay, 8,000 in a 56.5-point game total, which is the highest on the slate. And the Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites here. And it is a tough matchup, I guess you could say, against the Buccaneers. But the Buccaneers were torched last week against the Rams through the air, so I'm not overly concerned. And tons of upside with Mahomes, great stackable options. Hill, Watkins, Kelsey, just lots of value. Allows you to pay up for Mahomes, so I think it's going to be easy this week. And yeah, huge touchdown upside, which projected to be the highest total on the slate. So I think I'm going to go to Mahomes a lot this week in GPPs. I think he's fine in cash as well. But yeah, give me some Mahomes.
Sounds good. Let's see where he's at with his dollar figure. He's the number one owned quarterback at 12.65%. I guess we shouldn't be surprised, huh?
Yep, not surprised there. I mean, he's a beast. He really is.
Fantastic player. I don't know if 12 is too high. I mean, he's the number one owned quarterback, yeah. So
Yeah, as expected for Patrick Mahomes on the highest total slate. But curious to hear the ownership of this next guy, Josh Allen, 7,600 versus the Chargers and a 52-point game total, where the Bills are 4.5-point favorites. And Allen is averaging 26.9 DraftKings points per week. He did have a rough stretch of games between weeks 5 through 8, but has recovered since. He scored 69 DraftKings points the last 2 weeks combined. Another great matchup here against the Chargers, who have given up the 5th most DraftKings points to quarterbacks so far this year. So yeah, Josh Allen, I like the stacks. I like the stacking options. We'll talk about a lot of them as well. So you get a nice savings off of Mahomes, off of Murray as well. So there. So Allen is somebody I'm definitely looking forward to playing in tournaments.
And he's the second most highest owned quarterback at 12%, just below home. So obviously he's been playing better. And like you said, you get a little bit of a savings there. So no surprise there. Playing the Chargers, that should hopefully be, a high scoring game. Looking forward to seeing a lot of points thrown around there.
Yeah, definitely a game you want to target. So like I said, if you want, you can pay up for quarterback, especially this week because so much value. But if you do want to save some money at quarterback, I think in cash, I'm probably going to save some money at quarterback. The first guy I want to talk about is Derek Carr, 5,700 versus Atlanta. You got a 54-point game total here, which is one of the highest on the slates. And the Raiders are 3-point favorites. And Carr, I don't really understand this price. It's not like he's been bad this year. He's averaging 18.4 DraftKings points per game. You have an extremely good matchup against this Atlanta passing defense, who I like attacking each and every week. And Atlanta has given up the most DraftKings points to quarterbacks this year on average. And yeah, it's way too cheap at 5,700. You really don't need much here. And I think there's a lot of upside. Great stacking options with Waller, Aguilar, somebody you can stack him with. So I'm probably going to go Derek Carr in cash this week to allow me to go up at other positions. But I think there's some upside there.
Yeah, that's a heck of a cheap salary. He has been playing better. And because of that, his ownership is up to 9.3% for DraftKings, which is just below Mahomes and Allen is the number 3 most owned quarterback. Unfortunately, wow. I guess, but $5,700. He has been playing well, and people are taking advantage of that. So he's fairly high owned.
Yeah, that price does just not make sense to me at all.
Yeah, I wonder what happened. Well, we'll take advantage of that. Hopefully,
Sure.
It'll give our listeners and ourselves a chance to play that guy in a lot of our lineups.
Yeah. All right, and on the other side of things, Matt Ryan, 5,900 versus the Raiders. Like I said, 54-point game total, and Ryan is averaging 19.5 DraftKings points. And same thing, a solid matchup here for Ryan against the Raiders. Tons of volume for Matt Ryan, throwing the ball 39 times per game. Again, seems way too cheap here at 5,900. Great stackable options. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, like you mentioned, is going to be out. You still got Russell Gage on there. Hayden Hurst, I believe he's playing. So still some decent options to throw to. Should be a high-scoring game, so I don't mind Matt Ryan. More of a tournament play for me if I was to pick either guy in cash. I'd probably go Derek Carr down below, but I think Matt Ryan has some tournament upside.
And Hurst is expected to play today. Ryan is at 4.2% owned, which does sound like a nice GPP option there. I like that.
Yeah, I'd probably go there in some tournaments for sure at that ownership.
Now they don't have Todd Gurley. I don't know how that affects him. Todd, he does catch the ball, but I don't think that'll affect him that much. Now Julio may be out too, so. But I don't know. They seem to be able to pass without him. You had Hurst back. Ridley is hopefully can stay healthy the whole game, and you got Gage there, so that may actually help your GPP ownership a little bit because Julio may be out or most likely out. So that could actually help you there.
For sure. Yep. And then one last guy I do want to throw out and touch on, Tom Brady, I think is really interesting. 6,600 going against the Chiefs here and what is going to be the highest total on the slate. So just that alone makes it really intriguing. You have great stackable options, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. So really good options to stack with there. And I know the Chiefs defense has been pretty solid this year, but still, this is going to be a very high scoring game. I feel like it's going to be a back and forth shootout here. So I'm curious to hear the ownership of Tom Brady, and I think the stack's going to be pretty low this week.
He's 8.6. He's a little higher than typical. He's the 4th most owned quarterback. So people, it seems, that are on this a little bit because I don't think you don't usually see him that high.
No, not at all. But understandable though. This game. No, it doesn't affect it too much. I guess people are all over it because this game's supposed to be the highest projected total on the slate, so I can definitely see why a lot of people are gravitating towards that.
Sounds good.
Was there anybody else you wanted to throw out?
Yeah, with Teo for Miami is doubtful. I don't think it's official yet. It doesn't sound like he's going to play. So you got Fitzpatrick back. And he's probably going to be low owned. I don't know if he's a flyer or junkyard dog or whatever we want to call him. What do you think about him?
Yeah. No, I definitely like that. He's 5,500, so cheaper than Carr, cheaper than Ryan. You have a good matchup against the Jets and a good stackable option in Devontae Parker as well. So yeah, he's definitely somebody I'm looking at. And yeah, he's going to be like 1%, maybe 2% owned as well. So yeah, I think it's a decent tournament option.
Yeah, right now in our numbers, he's not even in there right now. I don't know if there's, they'll probably get updated here in a little bit again, but. Yep. It's going to be low owned for Fitzpatrick, so he's kind of an interesting guy to consider. That's my one weird play for quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so we're moving to running backs. Yep, on to running backs here. And we got to start up top with Dalvin Cook here. And the dude's been on a tear, averaging about 28.7 DraftKings points per week. And Dalvin Cook, 9,500. The price tag, it honestly doesn't concern me. I think a lot of people might be scared away from it a little bit. I do think he's going to be he's probably the number one owned running back on the slate, and for a good reason. It is a 50-point game total here, but the Vikings are 3-point favorites. And Dalvin Cook has that 30-plus touch upside, including some pass-catching upside as well. And he's been averaging 34.5 DraftKings points in the last 4 weeks. And you really can't ask for a better matchup here against the Panthers D. I really like the game script. I like them being the favorites. I like them being up. That means Dalvin Cook is going to be running the ball more. So, yeah, Dalvin Cook, 9,500. I think with all the value that's on this slate, you can easily go up and get him at that price tag. So, I'm going to have a lot. I'm going to have him in cash for sure, but I do think he's a good tournament option as well, but just going to be really, really high owned.
Yeah, Mr. Cook is the number one owned running back, 27.5%, which is a pretty high number. Yeah, as expected. He's on a roll. He's just the number one running back. He seems he's creating fantasy points. Carolina has an improved team, but I don't expect them to shut this guy down or devalue his fantasy points this weekend at all. Personally,
yeah, I definitely agree there.
He's definitely chalk, but he's a good chalk.
Yes, for sure. All right, getting into the next play here, and this play is really interesting. Nick Chubb, 7,100 versus Jacksonville. You got a 48.5 point game total, where the Browns are 7-point favorites, which I really do like that for Chubb here. And the Browns really should be ahead most of the game here, leading to more Chubb carries. 100-plus rushing yard upside for Chubb. You got an amazing matchup against this Jacksonville defense, one of the worst defenses in the league. You get huge savings off of guys like Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. The only thing I don't like is he's going to split a lot of time with Kareem Hunt, but still the Browns run the ball a ton. He's still going to get his 20-plus carries there. And there is some upside, but that's the only concern there. But yeah, curious to hear the ownership on Nick Chubb here.
He's the sixth most owned running back at 13.4. He's just below Derrick Henry's at 13.6. So, I love Chubb. I love Chubb, and he can really do well. The fact that those two guys, specifically Chubb, just aren't part of the passing game, you're not getting any PPR support. You still feel good that the 7,100. You feel good about that salary with a guy who, obviously, a great running back, and all that you said. Are you concerned with the fact that does it bug you that he's not a reception guy?
Yeah, it does bug me, but I do think he's a touchdown guy, so I think that definitely makes up for it.
Yeah, you're basically expecting at least one touchdown. He's kind of got to get a touchdown to make up for that PPR lack, to make up for that salary, and of course he's got an upside. It wouldn't surprise me if this guy gets 2 touchdowns in a game. and well over 100 yards. I mean, he ran out of bounds was a week or two ago because the Baker told him to. I guess they thought they had to. I don't think they had to. They were up by enough points. They'd have been over 2 scores, but I'm sure there was a lot of crying fantasy players like myself that watched him angle out of bounds at the 1 yard line and going, "What are you doing?" But yeah, love the guy, and he's a good play, like you said, and it's just funny how when I think of Nick Chubb, it could be at 3 a.m. and I'm in a dead sleep, and the first thing I think of is, God, I wish he could catch a couple balls a game. What a stupid thing! But it does play on my mind. Cool.
I agree. All right. Yeah, so getting to the next play here, James Robinson, 6,300 versus Cleveland, going on the other side of the ball here. 48.5-point game total where the Jaguars are 7-point underdogs. And Robinson's averaging 18.4 DraftKings points per game. And I just think he gets tons of usage and should see 20-plus touches here. He has that pass-catching upside, over 30 receptions on the year. And Cleveland is going to be missing Myles Garrett, a key piece of their defense. And I do think they're going to be coming from behind, leading to more receptions. The only thing is the Jaguars are going to be having that the backup quarterback playing for them. So I don't know how that's going to affect the offense. They're missing some key players, at the wide receiver position as well. They're missing Chark. So I think the offense is definitely going to be affected. But I still think Robinson's going to get a ton of usage here, and I think he's really cheap at 6,300. The matchup's not bad with Cleveland here. So I'm curious to hear the ownership on this one here.
James Robinson, the number 2 owned running back, 18.4%, way down from Cook. And like you said, 6,300, you're saving, if I compare him to Chubb, you're saving, $800 there. And like you said, though, you've got a weak situation with the quarterbacks. He can catch the ball, so if there is a situation where they're coming up on the line, they could throw to him. But yeah, 6,300, that's a tempting price there for Mr. Robinson. I kind of like that, and I obviously the world out there kind of likes it too because he's the number 2 owned running back.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so
not
getting
bad
into
for
the
guy who was a free agent rookie. It's
yeah,
incredible how a guy could be a free agent.
He's been really impressive this year for sure.
He said
he's been really
incredible.
Impressive. Yeah. Yes. All right, getting into the next play here, we have Austin Eckler, and I'm really curious to hear the ownership of Eckler here because he is 6,100 versus Buffalo. Get the 52.5-point game total where the Chargers are 4.5-point favorites. And Eckler's averaging 15.3 DraftKings points in the 4 games he's played, but we've got to remember he was hurt early in week 4, so returning here from injury. And like you mentioned earlier in the video, Balaj is going to be out. Just a really great matchup against this Buffalo defense, and I do think Eckler should get the majority of the carries here with a beat-up Chargers backfield. You got Balaj missing, you got Justin Jackson on the IR. You still got Pope and who else is the other guy on there?
Josh Kelly.
Yeah, Josh Kelly, but they haven't been using Josh Kelly as of late. I don't know. I don't think they like the guy much, but I do think Eckler is going to get the majority of the carries here. So I do think this is going to be possibly the cheapest we see Eckler for the rest of the year. So I'm definitely going to take advantage here in what should be a high-scoring game. I think there's a lot of upside. I think him returning off of injury is going to lower some of the ownership, but I do think he has a lot of upside here.
What's interesting about this one, Balaj isn't officially out yet. And that is an early game, so we'll know what to do. Mm-hmm. The coaching staff said they're not going to they want to bring Eckler in. They don't want to just throw the ball at him a bunch. But really, he's the situation's right for him to get a lot of touches. So we don't really have ownership data right now on him. It's kind of a wild card here in the next few hours here Sunday morning. So I think you're going to have to decide on your own, even though the coaching staff said they're not going to rush him back per se. Maybe he ends up getting enough, that he's, he becomes valuable. But there is a risk there. And what was his salary again?
6,100.
It's not bad. So that's a bit of a wild card right there. I mean, he could go in and they could split the ball up a little bit. I know they don't want to. Pope is an adequate guy. Kelly is a young kid. Had a lot of promise coming in here his rookie year, and I think it's a little over his head is probably what's happening because coach did say early on in that he's a little raw, which kind of tells me
Yeah.
maybe he's missing assignments, blocking assignments. Maybe he's missing the hole, and he just hasn't quite got it figured out. Even though running back is a position like James Robinson for Jacksonville, you can come in and you can play pretty well at running back as your rookie. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting play, Mr. Austin Eckler today, and I there's a lot. It's not a sure thing, but obviously you got a high ceiling for a guy who's been out that long. So it's quite an interesting situation with Austin Eckler.
Yep, for sure. Definitely a tournament play because, like you said, he can go out there and he can be limited, or he can go out there and he can, go off at 6,100, which is very, very cheap for him.
And he's got a new quarterback since he's been out.
Yep.
Who
A really
has
good one.
really proven that he can put the ball down and put the ball out there and create passing and receiving yardage. So I'm kind of interested to see how well they use Eckler here in the next few weeks. Of course, all we care about right now is week 12, but it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving into the next play here, we have Wayne Goldman, 5,000 versus Cincinnati. Kind of an interesting play here. 43-point game total where the Giants are 6-point favorites, which I do like that for Goldman. And Goldman has 15 touches in 3 of his last 4 games, scoring 19, 14, 13, 16 in the past 4 weeks. Good matchup here against the Bengals defense, and he scored in 4 games in a row. He scored 5 times in the last 4 games. So I do think the Giants should be ahead, leading to more rushing attempts for Goldman here. So not the prettiest play in the world playing a Giant here, but the matchup's good. I like the game script, and he's really cheap.
Yeah, if you close your eyes and look at the stats, actually close your eyes. I mean, you watch this kid and what a weird situation there. But like you said, he's performed. He's about the 8th most owned running back but it's 8.6%. But yeah, the production and the $5,000 salary cap makes him an attractive play. I don't know if that's a GPP or whatnot. What do you think at 8.6%?
Yeah, I'd probably go more tournament for me. Just playing a Giant in general, you don't really want to go there in cash. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. You got some upside at 5,000, I think, against the Bengals defense that's really bad here.
Yeah, and they've obviously the Bengals have lost their starting quarterback, so the offense may not be able to matriculate the ball down the field as much as you would think, and of course that means the ball goes back into the hands of the opponent, which helps Goldman.
Yes.
Excellent.
All right, so 2 more plays here for running back. Going down to the 4,000 range, we have Nyheim Hines, 4,600 versus Tennessee. You got a 51.5-point game total where the Colts are 3-point underdogs, and Hines is averaging 12.2 DraftKings points, but should see an increased opportunity here with Jonathan Taylor expected not to play. And with Hines, you have very good pass-catching upside, 36 receptions in 10 games, very cheap punt play here at 4,600. I do think there's some solid upside here at that price with Taylor out. I do think Wilkins is going to get some work, and Wilkins is like 4,000. But I do think Hines has the more upside because he has that pass-catching ability, some touchdown upside as well, and a decent matchup against Tennessee.
Yeah, it's that's a heck of a low salary. Of course, he's owned by at 6.2%. He's whatever that is, 6.2% this week. He's a real crapshoot. Of course, you've lost one head of a 3-headed monster, and now you have a 2-headed monster. But he has shown an extreme high upside. If the situation's working for them in that game, you've seen this guy go off in the passing game and the rushing game, score touchdowns. It sounds like he's an interesting tournament play, and he has a low ceiling. But with 2 quarterbacks out there, maybe that low ceiling has gone up a bit, and he's becomes a more attractive play, and he's at 6.2% owned at this point. Taylor was ruled out. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It wasn't like ultra recently, so the ownership's probably adjusted a bit. I don't think I would expect it to go up much more, but it's possible this morning as people figure out their final DFS rosters that he may be used a little more than 6.2% as a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, tournament upside, like you mentioned, not the highest ceiling in the world, but yeah, not bad a play there. All
Well,
right.
he does some great acrobatics. Hopefully he scores because he's so much fun watching his flips and
Yeah,
twists and stuff. As long as he doesn't get hurt. That's happened
yes, as
before in
long as he
history.
get hurt. Yes,
Get
for
hurt
sure.
flipping around in
All
the
right.
end zone.
Yeah. The last play I do want to touch on for running back is going to be Brian Hill, 4,000 versus the Raiders. You got a 54-point game total here where the Falcons are 3-point underdogs. So Todd Gurley is not expected to play, giving Hill more opportunities here. And just a fantastic matchup for Hill against this poor Raiders run defense. Just a minimum pump play here with some pretty solid upside, I'd say. He should be getting the majority of the touches. Touchdown upside on one of the highest totals on the slate. So yeah, Hill at 4,000. You really don't need much. We saw Mike Davis at 4,000 a couple weeks ago. He scored like 8 points. I'd honestly be fine if Hill went out there and scored like 10 to 15 DraftKings points at that price. You really don't need much. It allows you to go up and get guys like your Dalvin Cooks, guys like your Tyreek Hill, Stefan Diggs. So, yeah, I really like Hill at 4,000. Would love him to get into the end zone. That would be sweet at that price. But I'm going to have a decent amount here, and I'm sure a lot of people will as well.
Well, 4%, Gurley's out, and sure enough, he's the third most owned running back, 18.4%. It's hard not to start this guy in a couple of your lineups. I don't know how high a percentage of your lineups you want to go. He's shown some talent. And what I've noticed, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but what I've noticed when I've looked at him is Todd Gurley seemed to always get the ball or targets to him, whether it was passing or running, in the red zone. He's always been scoring touchdowns, and of course he's not there this time. So perhaps Hill will get those carries and be able to, maybe sneak a touchdown in and make that $4,000 salary quite successful for people. And people are expecting this. He's the third most. He's chalk, ironically, but good opportunity. What a low salary. That is so tempting.
Yep, got to take advantage. Was there anybody else you wanted to touch on for running backs?
Well, I'm trying to put my arms around the San Francisco backfield because you got Hakeem Mostert back and Jeff Wilson back. Coleman's out. It's an interesting. We've seen Wilson go off, and they both were questionable coming into this week, so we don't really know how healthy they are, and we don't really know what the coach will do with those two guys. But boy, there's a chance one of those guys goes off today, and I'm really not sure if I want to put much down on one of them, but it's be tempting to start them a little bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's something you got to think about because, it seems like a lot of the times one of these 49ers running backs do go off. And when they do go off, they're going to be at literally 1% or less ownership here. So, yeah, I definitely think maybe spreading it around, maybe playing a lineup with each could be something to do here because, there's some upside and nobody's going to be playing him today.
Yeah, they'll be pretty low. And we'll talk about the receivers. Remind me later, we'll talk a little bit about the receivers there also. Because interesting scenario. But, probably in your season long, I'm probably in a couple of my season long leagues, which I haven't got to yet this morning. I probably am forced to play Mostert because I'm probably hurting.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much, I don't have any other quirky guys, but those two guys are pretty quirky. That have definitely have potential to go off today for DFS.
Yep, I agree. All right, so moving into the wide receivers here. Of course, you have DeAndre Hopkins up top. He's always in play, obviously, as a tournament play. Keenan Allen up top as well. He's always in play as a cash or tournament play. You can pretty much play Keenan. I played Keenan Allen in cash every week. This year so far, it's worked out fantastic. Might go back there this week, but he's really expensive there at 8,000. What I do like is Tyreek Hill at 7,800 versus Tampa Bay. You got the 56.5 point game total, which is highest on the slate, where the Chiefs are 3.5 point favorites. And Hill's averaging 20.8 DraftKings points per week. And he's been getting a ton of targets as of late, 48 targets in the last 4 weeks. And just a huge ceiling here for Hill and what's projected to be the highest total on the slate. And I'm really liking the Patrick Mahomes and the Hill stack this week. And it is very expensive, but we're mentioning a lot of value on this slate, so it's definitely doable. So I'm curious to hear the ownership on Hill. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty high, but hopefully not too high.
He's the third most owned wide receiver, 17%, just below Diggs and Pittman. Believe it or not, Michael Pittman is the second most owned wide receiver. So it's up there. I think you're just like you said. They're chalky, but like you said, if with these other people we've been talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about, there are players that you can match them up with, and hopefully make a salary that's pretty attractive in GPP.
Yep, for sure. All right, and then Stefan Diggs, 7,600 versus the Chargers. You just touched on it. He's very high owned as well. Got a 52-point game total where the Bills are 4.5-point favorites. So Diggs is averaging 20 DraftKings points per game. Just a very nice ceiling here. What should be a high-scoring game for Diggs. Loving that Allen and Diggs stack this week. So there's going to be no John Brown, which favors Diggs even more. He's going to get more targets there. And just a great matchup against a really beat-up Chargers secondary and a really bad Chargers secondary in general. So, yeah, give me Diggs here at 7,600. I think is a fantastic tournament play today.
Yep, like I said, number one owned wide receiver, 18.5% owned. And God, he's done so well. Great opportunity. Are you at all interested? I don't know if you're going to talk about Beasley. You're going to talk about Beasley at all?
Yeah, I was going to talk about him a little bit. We can talk about him now, though.
Whenever you want to talk about him, it's fine.
No, we could talk about all the Buffalo wide receivers here. So I think they're all in. I think they're all in play. Honestly, you got Stefan Diggs 7,600, Cole Beasley 5,500. You're getting a nice savings off of Diggs, and Beasley has some good upside. We've seen him have a good game before. Even his last game, like he scored 30.9 DraftKings points, 13 targets. So the upside's definitely there, especially with John Brown out. And if you're looking for a pump play, I mean, Gabriel Davis is 3,000. I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities with John Brown out. And as we talk about it, when guys are at the minimum price, you really don't need much. So honestly, looking at all three of these Buffalo wide receivers, I think a stack with like mixing two of them in with Josh Allen is something you could definitely do. But yeah, Gabriel Davis is a really good pump play down at 3K there.
Wow, 3K, and Gabriel Davis is owned at 4.35%. A little higher than I thought he would, but still below 5%. And Beasley, I just flipped to the wrong screen, is about the ninth most owned wide receiver at 7.6%. So he's down a little bit there, but yeah, those are great plays. That's an interesting scenario. I got to think a little bit about whether you want to save money there or not. How you form your lineups, but there are options there, like you said. Beasley, when even though he's a slot receiver, if the situation's right, and with John Brown out, even though he's not a slot receiver, I've seen Allen just target Beasley where he ends up with 11 catches and 100 yards, and even if he doesn't get a touchdown with that price, you're over 20 fantasy points. So. He's not touchdown dependent, is what I guess I'm trying to say. So, interesting plays there.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Moving on to the next play here, and I feel like this is going to be really popular. I mean, I can't see how it's not. Justin Jefferson, 6,300. You got the 50-point game total here, where the Vikings are 3-point favorites, and Jefferson is averaging 16.8 DraftKings points per game. And the big thing here is Adam Thielen is going to be out, making Jefferson the clear wide receiver one here. And I think the price is just way too cheap in general for Jefferson. I probably would like him as a play with Thielen playing. But now that Thielen is out, I think it just makes him even a better play here. Should see an increased amount of targets with Thielen not playing as well. I think there's tons of upside. So 6,300, I'm going to be all over it. I like it in cash. I like it in tournaments. I'm curious to hear the ownership of it, though. I think it's going to be pretty high.
He's a sixth most owned wide receiver, 12.2% owned. Yeah, it's up there. It's over 10%. You got to expect him to be playing. He's an interesting guy because he's had some huge games where things went right, and then last week I was kind of hoping I put him in a couple lineups, and just this Thielen just stole the show, and he seemed to be the guy being targeted around the end zone for receivers, but he's not playing this week. So
yep, there you go.
Is Jefferson going to be able to score a touchdown or two? Maybe they're going to throw to the tight ends a little bit. I'm not really sure, but good opportunity there. And 12.2%. He's owned. He's not hiding. He's not hiding for anybody.
Yeah, not bad though. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, and kind of two guys here in one. DJ Moore, 6,200 versus Minnesota. Also, really like Robbie Anderson, who is $100 cheaper. But Moore, he has a 50-point game total here, where the Panthers are 3-point underdogs, and Moore is averaging 14.9 DraftKings points per game. Just an amazing matchup against this terrible Minnesota passing defense. Has been doing well as of late, scoring 24 and 19 DraftKings points in his last two games. And you really can't ask for a better matchup here for DJ Moore against Minnesota. So I like DJ Moore a lot at 6,200. I like Robbie Anderson at 6,100, 100 cheaper. Obviously, you don't want to play him in the same lineup. Maybe you could, but not me personally. But I do think one of these guys has a really, really good opportunity to go off today against this really poor Minnesota secondary.
Yeah, they're both right next to each other in ownership for DraftKings at 5.6% owned for Anderson and 5.5% owned for DJ Moore. What's interesting is you go to FanDuel and Anderson's owned at 11.8% with DJ Moore at 5.3%. I don't know why there would be such a disparity there, but it's in DraftKings. They're locked right in there, just a little over 5%, which sounds about right what I would expect for those two guys.
Yep, it's really hard to tell which one's going to go off, and that's the tricky part about this one. But I do like the matchup for both of them.
Yeah, that's a good game. That's going to be a fun one.
Yes, so the next play here, Devontae Parker, 5,900 versus the Jets. And 44-point game total here, where the Dolphins are 7-point favorites. And Parker is averaging 12.3 DraftKings points per week. Really solid matchup here against the Jets. And Fitzmagic's going to be back at quarterback. So I do think this is going to help out Parker. Remember earlier in the season, they had a really nice connection there. Should see a decent amount of targets on this really beat-up Dolphins offense. So I actually think there's some decent upside with Devontae Parker here. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. I think Fitzpatrick coming back helps him a lot, and really cheap here at 5,900.
Yeah, just to go back to the previous game real quick, I think the reason why Anderson is so highly owned, more owned in FanDuel, is his salary is $900 cheaper than DJ Brown's or more. So that's probably why that's happening. Parker right now is the fourth most owned wide receiver at 14.5%. So he's definitely up there. He's been up there a little bit too. But yeah, I think I agree with you. That's a very good opportunity for Parker. The poor Jets. The Jets occasionally show some strong plays on defense, but that's a great opportunity for Parker to make some fantasy points this week or today.
Yes, for sure. All right, and then I do want to touch on one more guy. I do want to say that I like the Tampa Bay receivers. There's three of them as well: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown. I think all three of them are definitely in play with Tom Brady stacks. But somebody I do want to talk about for another pump play here is Denzel Mims, 3,500, averaging 8.7 DraftKings points per game, going against Miami here. And Sam Darnold's expected to play here, so I do think that it's going to help out Denzel Mims a lot. I mean, he's not going to have Joe Flacco throwing to him this week, which I do think is a big advantage. It doesn't really need much to hit value at 3,500. I actually think Mims is going to be kind of popular here. Not the best matchup in the world against Miami, but still, I think Darnold coming back is going to help him a lot.
Yeah, good point. He's actually the fifth most owned wide receiver today. I cannot believe that. Or I guess we can. No, $3,500. 13.9% owned, just below Parker and just above Justin Jefferson. Wow, they're playing at home. That's a very tempting one for him, and he has been playing well as a rookie. He's been out for so long, with injuries, but I like that one. I can't believe how low that salary is, and definitely people are on him. He's chalky at that ownership, which means maybe more cash as a fifth. You believe that?
Yeah, I can't believe it honestly, but I mean, I guess it's understandable. The price is way too cheap there. So, wow.
Yeah, good opportunity.
Yes. Was there anybody else you wanted to throw out there for wide receivers?
I lost my train of thought. I was so excited about that. Now, with Julio Jones out, do you think Ridley? Ridley's kind of a quirky character. He's 6.6% owned, $7,100. Do you think, assuming Julio Jones is out, which sounds like he's going to be, it's not official yet. That's a early game, so you're going to know, whether Julio Jones is out. Is Ridley worth considering today?
Yes, definitely worth considering there. You got the good matchup. He's definitely going to be that guy today. I don't really want to mess around with Gage or nothing like that. Gage has not done anything all year. Even when these wide receivers are out, we've seen Ridley out before, we've seen Julio out, and Gage doesn't really step up. But I do think Ridley can definitely step up with Julio out here. He's done it, a lot this year. So yeah, averaging 19.3 DraftKings points. The matchup's there. Do you know the ownership of Ridley? If it's low, I definitely have some interest for sure.
Flip over there real quick. I should have been on that. Let's see. He's like around the 10th receiver, 6.6% owned.
Okay, yeah. Not bad. Not bad. He has upside.
Yeah,
a lot of upside.
He's got a lot of upside. If the guy can stay healthy, I really like this player. He's got to worry about his injury proneness in games. He's gotten injured in very simple plays, in my opinion. As I sit on my couch and watch him and say, "Why are you hurt again?" But hopefully he can get a little stronger next year because that guy's got talent.
He does.
Ridley has got some talent. Cool. Well, that's kind of the one I had that was kind of in the back of my head. Denver's a totally insane situation. I don't even know if these guys are on, all the well, we may be talking about Denver about something else. But anyway, I don't know how I can play anybody on Denver right now unless I want to just do some crazy things.
Yeah.
So that's all I had at receiver as far as what a mess. So that's all I had.
All right, yeah, we'll move on to tight ends here. I do want to touch on a couple. We've threw out so much value on this video, so we're actually able to go up and pay for tight end this week. So Travis Kelce is somebody I really like. You got him 7,000. Which again, the price does not scare me because you can go up and get value like pretty much anywhere on the slate. Lots of good running backs, wide receivers that are really cheap this week. So yeah, really like Kelce against Tampa Bay here. Tampa Bay, they're all right against the tight end. They've given up the 9th least DraftKings points per game to tight ends so far this year. But really, Kelce is not matchup dependent. I mean, this guy can go off on any given week. Doesn't matter the matchup. I really like the Mahomes and Kelce stack this week. So I'm really looking forward to playing some Kelce this week. I know he's going to be more than likely the first or second most highest owned tight end, and that's typically what we're going to see. But probably going to go up and play some Kelce this week for sure.
Yeah, he's the number one owned tight end, 27.5% owned, way above Waller, who's at 18. And then following that, you've got 6%ers like Ingram, and Andrews is out now, and Henry is at 6%. So, but I like your idea. It's very reliable guy. He can score 18, 19 tight end fantasy points without scoring a touchdown. So yeah, he's if you like you said, we got some value here that we've been showing, which means you can take advantage of these situations, and he's definitely a guy who can really separate himself fantasy wise, scoring wise in the tight end field.
Yes, for sure. All right, so the next guy I do want to talk about, this is probably where I'm going to go to in most of my lineups, and that is going to be Darren Waller. And Waller is 6,000 versus Atlanta. You got 54-point game total, which is one of the highest on the slates. And Waller is averaging 14.4 DraftKings points per week. And I really like the Carr and Waller stack this week. You got a fantastic matchup against this really, really bad Atlanta passing defense, and just tons of volume from Waller in general, averaging about 8.3 targets per game. You really can't ask for a better matchup here against Atlanta. The price does not scare me away. Like I said, 6,000. I'm going to have a decent amount of Waller. He's probably going to be my personally highest owned tight end for me.
Yeah, he was scaring me a little the last several weeks. He just didn't quite, he dropped a long pass a couple weeks ago, and he was getting the targets, which is important to understand. They just weren't making hay with it, but then that's changed a little bit. And he's owned 18%. He's the number 2 owned tight end, way below Kelce, but number 2 owned. So I think hopefully he'll keep that up because he's so much fun to watch too. He's just a monster out there. So, but a bit chalky, not surprisingly.
Yep, not surprising at all. And then let's see here. Austin Hooper is interesting. 3,800 versus Jacksonville. You got the 48.5 game total, where the Browns are 7-point favorites. And Hooper's averaging 7.1 DraftKings points per week. Just a cheap tight end play here with a great matchup against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has given up the fourth most DraftKings points to opposing tight ends here. So you got the good matchup. Cheap play here. Don't know how much upside there is, but I'm personally not going to be punting down at tight end. I'm going to be playing up, but if I was to play down, I think Cooper's not a bad look at 3,800.
Yeah, and he missed several games due to injury. He came back. I think he's only played one game, if I recall. So, it helps him. He's gotten into the flow of things, and maybe he can, snag a touchdown or something and make that value of, 3,800? That's a pretty good. He's at 3.5% owned. He's down below the 5% kind of level. An interesting possibility, like you said, for a cheap play at tight end.
Yep, for sure. And then, other than that, I'm pretty much going to be all in on Waller, all in on Kelsey. So I think Hunter Henry's a fine play. Evan Ingram. Other than that, I'm going to be playing Waller and Kelsey mostly.
I remember Jordan Reed for San Francisco earlier in the year when he came in. He had some great games. They're playing the Rams at the Rams. He's at 3,600. He's at 3.3%. I'm not really sure if he's also questionable. And I forget whether that's an early game or a late game. Oh, it's an afternoon game. So I don't know if he's a good play. Because you're going to have to make an assumption on whether he's going to really be healthy or not. But he's a guy who can score. He's a guy who could put together a touchdown or two. I don't like playing at the Rams. They play well at home. They pass rush well, which means maybe they'll throw some short balls to Reed, but it's a total wild card idea. I thought I'd just bring him up. I'm not necessarily excited about it, but sometimes those are the kind of guys that have a great GPP play.
Yep, exactly. And San Francisco's really beat up on the offensive side, especially at the wide receiver position or the pass catching position, you could say. So, Reed at 3,600. We've seen him do it before this year. He scored, he had that 2 touchdown game in week 2, so he's more than capable of it. The only concerns is that durability of Reed. So, questionable, so look out for that. I'm going to be low owned there, so I think it says he has an illness. So I don't know what to think of that.
He's illness, he may be okay. They'll probably give him an IV and run him out there. So sometimes the illness is, and he's been ill for a couple of days, so maybe he's getting over it. We check football diets here in the next hour or so. Like I said, it's an afternoon game, but maybe there'll be some news just in general saying how he's feeling and whether he's going to play. I did forget when we went through receivers. Deebo Samuels for San Francisco is back, but Brandon Ayuk, I don't think he's back. He's on the COVID, so you've got that Richie James guy, and you got Bourne, who one of them could be starting, and I don't know who. I don't have a definitive thing to say. I'm just saying that one of those two guys. And we know how well Richie James played that one time. He got open middle and deep and just had an insane game. I don't expect that to happen, especially with Deebo Samuel. But it could be a healthy dose of Deebo Samuel because Ayuk is out. So anyway, I'm just bringing those things up. I have no real exciting go-to situation, but there is opportunity there for those other receivers.
Yep, agreed there. All right, we'll touch on defense real quick, and really, there's 3 that I like for this week, and the first one is going to be the Saints defense, and Saints defense is sitting at 3,800 going against Denver. As we know, they don't have a quarterback, so I actually like the Saints' chances there against the Broncos that are, like you said, bringing in that guy from the practice squad. So not overly concerned about it. I think the Saints are definitely my go-to personally at that price.
Wow, that's an interesting play. They're at 6.9% owned. That may move this morning a little bit. The news came out about all the quarterbacks for Denver being ruled out was late yesterday meaning Saturday. That may not have been caught up to it, so that number actually may go up slightly for the New Orleans defense as far as ownership concerns at 6.9%. Interesting
not
play
bad
there.
Yeah. The other defense I want to talk about is the Browns defense. So they're missing Myles Garrett, which is a concern. But man, the Jags are very beat up on the offensive end, missing their starting quarterback, missing DJ Chark. So I think the Browns are fine at 3,100, but they are missing Garrett, which is a key part of their offense. So might be going to the Browns. The other team I wanted to talk about is going to be the Giants. 3,200 against the Bengals offense. That is missing Joe Burrow, which I think is very important there. We got a very low total, so I do like the Giants at 3,200 as well.
Yeah, those are all fun plays. The Giants are the number one known defense, 19%. Cleveland's number 2 at 17.5%, and the Saints are number 5 at like I said, 6.9%. I like all those. We actually have choices at defense this week that may actually have big games. That's fantastic.
Yes, I like it. I like it.
It's really fun when you get a defense, on your for DFS that goes off, because it's very hard to predict, and it's so much fun when you get that extra frosting on the cake from a defense. Sometimes it really makes a difference of winning some cash games.
Yeah, it really is the best feeling. Like on Thanksgiving, I played the Texans defense. J.J. Watt got that interception return. It was awesome. Very low owned defense there.
Yeah, that was great. That was fantastic.
Yes. But that's all for me there. I'm really looking forward to this slate. Like, there's a lot of value. It should be fun.
Yeah, I hopefully here remotely I can get a few lineups together here in another few hours without screaming grandchildren doing horrible things to my mind and my body. Anyway, just kidding. But it's going to be a fun one. There is opportunity, as we've talked about all through the show, with these quirky things going on. I don't think things like the Denver offense. I don't know what you do there, because I think if you get lucky and figure something out there, that's just, I don't know if it's worth even one lineup trying to figure out who's going to be the quarterback and whether they can be effective. Maybe they're going to be able to run the ball. So that's the situation where I just don't think I'll do anything there unless I just come up with some quirky that happens late in the next few hours when I kind of analyze things. But should be a really good weekend with a bit of insanity and uncertainty. Sometimes you can sneak some wins in.
Yep, I'm really looking forward to it here.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. Good luck, Brady, and good luck all our listeners. Let's win some money today.